Alright guys, I am back on this channel once again for the first time in about 90 days. A lot has happened away from the camera and I'm just so grateful to be back. For those of you that reached out to me, thank you and God bless you. Now, I want to talk about the WrestleMania 40 documentary that premiered last night. It was 11 p.m. here in Ghana when it came out. And I'm wondering why it lasted 3 months to come out. But I'm going to dive into it once again. Hi, my name is Andy. I'm a wrestling fan from Ghana. If you like the content on this channel, then please do subscribe and like this video. And let's get into it. There was a lot of things in this doc which I really liked. And then there was a lot which made me raise an eyebrow. Like, I don't know if this should have been in there. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to these documentary things. It's part of my day job as a videographer and video editor to look at these things. One of the things I will say right off the bat, and this is a bit of a technical thing, the color grading for the WrestleMania part was really good. The behind the scenes with Roman. I saw some behind the scenes shots from Red Light 24 FPS. I think that's his handle on Instagram. He was showing some behind the scenes stills. You can go check them out. Now, one of the things I liked the entire concept of this WrestleMania 40 documentary, peeling back the curtain and letting us see exactly what was happening. And it kind of, to me, was answering a lot of questions like, was the pivot planned? Was it real? You know, how much chaos did it cause backstage? What plans had to be altered? Things of that nature. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me very quickly, and stick with me on this because it might be a bit of a hot take, CM Punk's injury was a bit of a blessing in disguise. Not just for Drew McIntyre, but for this story. Because if you really look at it from a storyline standpoint, if CM Punk had not been injured, CM Punk would have faced Seth Rollins, and it kind of continues that whole tradition of the first runner-up in the Royal Rumble also getting a title shot. It's like second and first are pretty much the same thing. But nonetheless, that seemed to be the play. And if that happened, Seth definitely does not get into the picture of this huge build for Cody Roman 2. The Rock Roman might have happened. Cody might have been on the outs. Heck, it might have even been a triple threat, or you could have had a situation where Cody would have faced Roman on night 1 and then Rocky on night 2, because you may not be able to tell which of these two matches might be the bigger draw. And if you don't put Cody on the second night, you know, it kind of cheapens, you know, the impact of his win on the first night. But anyway, that would have also caused a ton of problems on its own. Like I said, huge blessing in disguise for Drew McIntyre, because inadvertently, CM Punk being hurt led to him going to Elimination Chamber, winning that match, and then eventually beating Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship and starting one of the best feuds in WWE history. Another thing which I liked was Cody did not hold back when it came to his emotions. Of course, he was being professional, but you could see that he was hurt, especially when it came to him winning the Royal Rumble, being so conflicted. You know, cutting that very interesting promo on Monday Night Raw, which now makes a lot of sense when you watch this documentary, because as it would turn out, Cody knew about the possibility of Rock and Roman happening, thus trumping any chance he might have had to go ahead and finish his story at this year's WrestleMania. I gotta tell you, it was pretty hard to see Cody be like that, but it got even worse when Rocky did the stare down, and it seemed like everybody was on board with the idea. Also seeing the genesis of the We Want Cody movement, and by the way, shout out to all the content creators that showed up in this documentary, from Santi's Up, from Kicking It with Ross and Dub, you know, then the Clutch Squad, Blonde, I forget some of the names of these people, but I was so happy. It's like wrestling content creators are getting recognized by WWE. This is not the first time it's happened, of course, but boy, this was amazing. I loved seeing that. You know, it kind of gives me hope that maybe a kid from Ghana like myself could one day be in a position like that to appear in a documentary, but who knows, man? That's not the aim. The aim is to entertain and talk about the sport, or the show about the sport that we love, called professional wrestling. I am talking a lot right now. Now, the next thing was how Rock fit into the picture, and how there was this story between himself and Roman. And I appreciated the fact that they acknowledged that this wasn't just set up within WWE silently, but it was also set up with mediums such as Young Rock, you know. And it also makes me think about something. Now, stick with me for a second. If Rocky had not made those two prior appearances before his stare down with Roman, I want to think everybody might have been on board with it then. Because then I think the shock value of The Rock appearing for the first time on WWE television since 2016 might have outweighed the whole "we want Cody" movement. And they could have trucked through it, which is something Vince McMahon definitely would have done. But it's also something I'm glad that Triple H and everybody else that was involved with decision making for this WrestleMania did not assent to in any way. And I'm really glad, it's a positive sign that, they listen to the fans, they listen to the feedback. Granted, we may not always have the best ideas, that's why you always have to learn to trust Papa H. But nonetheless, I am quite happy that, there was this change, because, what would have happened would have happened. Also, I like that there was a moment where Cody acknowledged that the fans really turned the tide for him. Because let's face it, if the "we want Cody" movement doesn't come up, we probably get Cody Roman at SummerSlam instead of, Mania. And then we don't get the craziness we got, which I like. Speaking of WrestleMania, that part of the documentary, outside of Cody having that dinner with his family at the steakhouse, there wasn't much. And that's the part of it that really makes me question whether or not this documentary should have lasted 3 months to come out. Because if it was going to come out the Wednesday after WrestleMania, mind you, they advertised it first on night 2 of WrestleMania Sunday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this thing was going to come out 3 days. I want to think they were just waiting for WrestleMania to conclude for them to do cuts and then fit in there. I'm an editor, I would know this stuff. And for it to have lasted this long to come out makes me believe that in some capacity, some of the shots were under approval, and maybe there are certain shots that they were like, no, let's not do this now, let's reveal this later, or let's not reveal it at all. I know there is a shot, and if you watch the last episode of SmackDown, you'd have seen it. There is a shot of Roman Reigns coming back after, the fan cam footage, I'm sure you've seen it, of him hugging Paul Heyman and him sort of being visibly emotional. There's a shot of that. We don't see it in this documentary. We don't see the shot of Rocky, preparing for his entrance at Mania. We just see him backstage with Triple H. So it really makes me wonder what the process was, what was being signed off on, and all of that, because it really just became a highlight video at the end. Of course, we saw the backstage segment, or not segment, but the moment where Cody walked back with the title in his hand and saying hello to everybody that helped him in the match, So I don't know, man. I don't know. It kind of was a bittersweet thing because I liked that we saw that, but at the same time, it seemed rushed. It was an hour and 29 seconds, I expected it to go almost 2 hours, or at least an hour 30 minutes. But then that also makes me think that there might be some footage for later down the road, maybe another Roman Reigns documentary, but A&E already did that, so I don't know. So who knows? Maybe a WWE 24 on WrestleMania 40, but we didn't even get that for WrestleMania 39. And if indeed that was going to be the case, what would they call it? Behind the Curtain 2? I don't think people would be as hyped for it. But ultimately, I think a lot of people's expectations were raised, mine included, because one of the things we had also heard was that documentary was being delayed because of the sheer amount of footage that they got on the back of WrestleMania 40. And if that was the sheer amount of footage, then it doesn't make too much sense to me, and I'm just saying from the perspective of an editor, but that's really it. I don't know. I know there's shots of Roman talking in front of the camera in the gym. Once again, go to Red Light 24 FPS on Instagram and you will see the shots I'm talking about. There's shots of Roman in the gym that don't make this cut, and those are stills, mind you. But I don't know, man. So anyway, it kind of left me bittersweet. I'll definitely watch it again and again and again still, but it's going to leave a lot desired. I do think they probably also want to keep parts of Roman Reigns' tribal chief character away from the camera, but if that was the case, I don't think the cameras would have followed him back there. I don't think he would have acknowledged that, oh, it's a cool thing we're doing for the fans and whatnot. So that's just me. Those are my 2 cents on it. I'm just a wrestling fan from Ghana and West Africa with no clue as to what these people think on a daily basis. I just enjoy the ride. And before I wrap up on this, I'm really glad that Rocky talked a bit about how the final boss came to be. Although I think that story is a little tweaked, because I can promise I've heard another interview where he talks about waking up in Hawaii and talking about the pivot, but he doesn't really acknowledge it here. He kind of switches it and uses that conversation to talk about the birth of the final boss. So I don't know if it was in the same conversation or if there were two separate conversations. The documentary makes it look like it's two different conversations, but who knows, man? Please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this documentary. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let's have a discourse about it. I will have a Money in the Bank predictions video coming your way soon. I actually shot it yesterday, but once again, laptop's not doing good. I can't edit the footage, so I'm going to reshoot that very soon. But until then, take care. This is Andy, and I'm signing off.